You know, it has been a little while, actually, on the show since we've gotten into some local issues. I thought it was about time. Mary Norwood is joining us in the studio. Of course, she is a former city councilwoman and mayoral candidate, and now nominated to be the chair of the Buckhead Council of Neighborhoods. Mary, how are you?
I'm grand. I'm delighted to be here, Dana.
It's nice to have you back on the show. Hey, this is your first time being with us on WGST, I think.
That's
right?
true.
Yeah, you were with us at the old station, so welcome to the new digs.
Thank you.
You know, you're now involved in the Buckhead Council of Neighborhoods. Is this something that you've always been involved in?
I certainly have attended several of the meetings over the years, and the meetings are held in my own neighborhood at Peachtree Presbyterian Church on the second Thursday of each month, and except for summer and December, of course. And so I've been there, and I have heard wonderful speakers and very much appreciate the great work that the council has done. They came to me in the early fall and asked me if I would consider not being nominated for chair. And I said, you know, I'm still in my year of silence. I decided after the election that I would be silent the first year of the new administration. I thought that would be the right thing to do for the city. So I have been, and I then got involved in my own neighborhood in October, and after spending 2 months working on a possible rezoning in our own neighborhood, I decided that maybe this lent itself to a broader vision and a broader use of my many years of being involved in city issues.
All right, I want to get into some of the specific issues in Buckhead, but before we do, I have to talk a little bit about your silent year, and now welcome to your not silent year, 2019. Mary is no longer silent, people. But I want to ask you about that because I'm sure that was appreciated by the current mayor, by Mayor Bottoms, because, you know, it's a fair point, I think. You don't need to have a lot of people, especially that ran against you, speaking out and being controversial in that first year, certainly. But does this mean now that you will potentially be an outspoken critic of the mayor, or does it just mean you'll speak about Buckhead?
No, this role that I am taking on is the Buckhead Council of Neighborhoods, so it will be issues that certainly are very important to Buckhead. But because I have so many citywide contacts and connections across the entire city, I look at this as a way to unify the city, to be able to advocate on behalf of neighborhoods throughout the city and on issues that are of importance throughout the city. So it's not ignoring any other part of the city, but it's not a political role. It is a advocate. I want to be a communicator, an advocate, to inform and educate, and so that we all can make the city, have the city make the best possible decisions that they can.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. I feel like, and I don't have an news article or anything pulled up about this, but I feel like somewhere in the back of my brain was some piece of news from, I want to say last year or maybe the year before, about Buckhead wanting to separate from the city of Atlanta and be its own city. Did I make that up, or was that discussed at one point?
That was not discussed with me.
Okay.
I have not been a part of conversations. I've had a few people say to me, wouldn't that be great? And what I have said is, I want to see Buckhead be a very important and significant part of the city. And by taking on the job as the chair, if I'm elected, for the Buckhead Council of Neighborhoods, that is very much part of the city and the city structure.
Right. I think if that were to happen, the city, if Buckhead were to separate, the city would lose a huge tax base. That would be a very bad thing for the city. I think it might be good for Buckhead, but it wouldn't be good for the city overall. And to your point, I think the whole metro area would be affected, and that isn't good. It's important for us to have a strong city of Atlanta.
What I have always understood, and I've been a citywide representative for 3 terms.
Right.
And when you're in one part of town, because our city has a tremendous amount of tree canopy, which we are losing quickly, and because of our topography of our hills and valleys and creeks, people in one part of town don't know another part of town.
That's true.
They know the principal streets. They know Piedmont Road. They know Peachtree. They know Metropolitan. They know Moreland. They know Memorial. But they don't know the neighborhoods, or Fairburn, or Campbellton.
Sure.
But they don't know the neighborhoods that are off of those main drags. And so you have people in one part of the city that say, another part of the city is getting everything, and we're getting nothing. What I've always tried to do is to make sure that we have good balance and give good city service to every part of the city. I will continue that in this role.
I love that. You mentioned the tree canopy. And just before we came on the air, you were mentioning that is something that is maybe in jeopardy a little bit in the Buckhead area. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, we are losing acres and acres of trees with clear cutting. In my own neighborhood, 4 acres of old-growth forest and the house of the former mayor of Atlanta were demolished, and a new home is going up. The clear cutting is unbelievable. If you look at Roswell Road at East Andrews, it was verdant. And then I came back from being out of town, and it was a wasteland.
Yeah.
And so something huge is going up. So we will have progress in this town. We always do. It's what we are in Atlanta. But we need to be thoughtful. And we have a tree ordinance that is not being enforced right now.
Oh.
And on Thursday evening, we are going to get information at the Council of Neighborhoods about what is and is not being enforced. And so that we as a council can take a position on current enforcement of tree ordinance, of zoning regulations, of all the things that we know we need to have the city paying attention to, not just in our own part of town, but the entire city.
We're almost out of time already, believe it or not, Mary, but I want to ask you sort of about this sort of neighborhood and grassroots activism, because that's essentially what you're talking about for Buckhead, right? And you know, it's great that you all and I'm sure every part of town has its own council essentially, but how do you actually make an impact? Do you interact directly with with the current city council members, or how do you make an impact?
Well, what I've done is to set up what I'm calling interest areas, and I have solicited a chair for each interest area of those issues that I think are important to us and, of course, important to the entire city. And they are crime, development, finance and taxes, green space, housing, transit, traffic, tree canopy, and water. And so each of those areas will have its own chair and its own members from the council and from other members in our neighborhoods who are interested in helping. So we will have a structure with which to, in each of these interest areas, will interact with a council committee, and that's already been established right here.
Gotcha.
So these are the council committees, and these are the interest areas that will interact with them. So we expect to be a great advocate for good policy and good operational procedures from our city government to help all parts of the city.
Okay, I love that. Look, crazily enough, we are already out of time, but it's a good introduction, I think, to what is happening in Buckhead and what is happening at the Buckhead Council of Neighborhoods. So obviously you have to be elected to this on Thursday, so we'll keep our fingers crossed for you. But please keep us posted on what's happening in Buckhead and the city at large. We really appreciate it.
Great. I will do. Thank you.
Again, that was Mary Norwood hanging out with us on the show. We'll post a link to all things Buckhead Council of Neighborhoods and Mary on our show notes page at